Check, check. Good evening, everybody. If you could, please find your seat at your table. It's on your credential if you haven't seen it. And we're going to be getting started here in just a minute or two. So if you can go ahead, find your seat, start eating, and we'll be underway here in just a minute, okay? Thank you. Okay. All right, you guys ready? Okay, good. Listen, before we get into this, they're going to continue to bring out the food, so don't worry. You don't have to stop. Enjoy your dinner. We have a wonderful meal for you here tonight. Chef has cooked up a great one, so we don't want you to feel like you can't eat. Go ahead and enjoy your dinner while we're presenting our first couple of inductees, okay? For those of you that might not know, my name is Ralph Sheheen. I'll be your MC here tonight. Great to see everybody back here once again. How beautiful is this brand new room? Is this not spectacular? Congratulations to Jill Gregory and the entire staff here at Sonoma Raceway and Speedway Motorsports Incorporated on this incredible addition to such a wonderful facility already here at Sonoma Raceway. Outstanding job. And for those of you that don't know, we are the very first thing to take place in here. So we really have a little bit of history we get to make here at the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. Yeah, we're the guinea pigs, so if anything goes wrong, they know before Sunday. This is a pretty special night for me. I grew up in Carmichael, a suburb of Sacramento, so the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame is a very prestigious group and a very unique honor for me to be a part of it. Ken Clapp, who is our chairman, asked me to be a member of the board of directors, I want to say about 10 years ago, and that in itself was an amazing honor. And then this past winter, he called up and said, myself and the board of directors would like to make you president of the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame. And I just about fell out of my chair because Ken and I have a long history together. When I was beginning my career as an announcer living in Sacramento, before I moved to Charlotte, Ken was trying desperately to get me to come to work for him as he was promoting races all over Northern California when he was running San Jose and Stockton and various different facilities. And he goes, I want you to come work with me, and if you stay with me and work with me, I'll get you to a position where you're a president of a NASCAR track on the West Coast someday. And now he calls me and he tells me, see, if you'd have done that, you'd be like Dave Allen, you'd be making $5 to $10 million a year. That's the number he tells me, Dave. I'm just saying. I don't know. He likes to bug my wife with that all the time. But I couldn't do it because I was dreaming still of doing this television thing. I had to find out. So I didn't accept that job, but I always wondered in the back of my mind, could I be a multimillionaire like Dave Allen if I had taken that job? Yeah, so anyway, when Ken called about being president and having the opportunity to work with him now, there was no way I could turn him down again. I said to my wife, Kimberly, I said, you know, I had to turn him down the last time. I have to take it this time because I have to have, microphone, have to have that check. There we go. That's one of the things they're trying to find out before Sunday. I have to find out what it's like to have that opportunity to work side by side with Ken and have that experience. So I'm thrilled to say now that I am president of the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, getting to work side by side with my buddy, my mentor, a father figure, and a legend here on the West Coast, Ken Clapp. Thank you. And adding to it tonight is the fact that my announcing career, along with my presidency, began right here at this very racetrack. The first thing I ever announced while I was a college student at Chico State was an AFM motorcycle race right here at then Sears Point. So it's kind of all gone full circle for me, even though I'm always going to be a couple laps down to Ken. So, okay, let's get this night underway, all right? Let me go ahead and bring up to the stage for our first presentation, the man who's my buddy that I get to work with. Please welcome to the stage our chairman of the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, Mr. Ken Clapp.
Thank you, Ralph. You know, somebody said to me recently, why do you stay in racing so long like you have? It's because of people like Ralph Sheheen and other friends that makes you stay in racing. Oh, boy. Misplaced my glasses. Number one, thank you one and all for being here. I think this is just a great place to have our dinner. I'd like to thank every single person that's made this possible this year, but I'd be here all night if I did that. There's a couple of people, though, I really have to point out that have gone above and beyond. Bear with me. I don't have my glasses on, and I may miss a note here. But anyway, I've had the... I'm going to need them back. No, they're too foggy. Thanks, John. About 10 years ago, I was down in North Carolina, and Chris Blair, who a lot of you know, wanted me to meet a man, and I instantly liked him. I think he liked me too, but I'm not sure. Maybe he hadn't decided yet. That man is here tonight with his wife, Mr. and Mrs. Curtis Francois, Curtis's wife, Amy. I am at a retirement age plus. People like that are what's making me keep going.
These are great Biffles.
Now I see why he was a great race car driver. What he's accomplishing at Gateway in St. Louis, which was proven last weekend, speaks to his organizational abilities. Pleasure to be involved. Many months ago, I sat down with my old, or I should say young, friend, Jill Gregory. We talked about this beautiful new facility that she was going to build. We were at lunch somewhere. I don't even know where we were, but we were having fun, and she showed me a rough overview of what she was doing. And we talked about possibly having the 2022, which we're doing tonight, Hall of Fame celebration here. And as time went on, we talked more and more, and here we are. She's been great to work with. Couldn't have done it without her. I'd like to thank her individually and appreciate everything she's done to try to make this work for us. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her vice president, one of her vice presidents, Pete Rogers, who also has really worked well with our staff. There are more, and thank you to one and all. You made it happen. For many years, my old friend Michael Gaughan, South Point Casino Resort, his family have been dedicated supporters of this Hall of Fame. Michael called me a few days ago, and he said, I got a deal for you. And that's Michael. He's the best. He said, I'd like to host the cocktail party Thursday night. Michael, where are you? I can't see any further than the car in front of me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Another old friend or friends, Richard and Claudia Woodland, Paso Robles, California. Dick Woodland and I have been friends for a long, long time. He and his wife are the sponsors of the Eberly wine that you're enjoying tonight, along with the Eberly Winery, president, Gary Eberly. Claudia, Dick, thank you. I'm way beyond proud that since June of 2017, up until tonight, the Hall of Fame's been able, because of people in this room tonight, to gift just over $600,000 to varied charities. By December 31st of this year, we'll be just over $700,000. I'm shooting for $1 million within the next 3 years. Thank you for making that possible. I've got a wonderful staff, primarily young ladies. Couldn't do this without them. Also, an old and a dear friend, Richard Spencer. Couldn't do it without him. You'll hear from him a bit later tonight. Very interesting guy, I might add. But I'd like to single out a few people. Christy Leader, who for a number of years was at Phoenix Raceway, and she and Julie Giese are doing something together again now, just as of recent. She's my saving grace. Melissa Blyer, Jen, Becky McBride. I'd be really remiss not to acknowledge Owen Kearns. He's been with me now for close to 40 years in different capacities and roles. Thank you all. I know I'm missing somebody, but all those people that have made it all possible means a lot to me. I'm just about done. I could go faster if Greg's glasses were stronger. I might buy you some new ones. I want to point out some young people in the audience tonight that make up Carlos Vieira and Kenny Shepard's 5150 initiative at Madera Speedway of juniors. Very, very successful initiative. From that group, Haley Deegan, Cole Custer, a couple of names you're going to hear a whole lot about in the real near future, Jesse Love, Joey East, and it goes on and on. I'm very supportive of this effort. These drivers will leave Madera. They'll go on to the ARCA Menard Series on the West Coast, and hopefully, with some guidance, on to bigger and better things back east. But they're good race car drivers. They're amazing. Jesse Love, before he went east and started driving for the Venturinis, won 2 championships in a row, right out of Madera, driving for Bill McAnally. I'd like for these young people to stand up, if they would, so you get a good look at them. You can say, well, I had dinner with them when they were real young. Robbie Keenley, I don't know if I said that right. Kenna Mitchell, Joaquin Stewart, Monty Tipton, and Jaden Walbridge. Would you all please stand? Young lady and gentlemen, I wish you the very best going forward. If I can ever be of any help to you, I'm easy to find. Last, when I told Jill what I was going to do here, she got a grin before she even heard it come out of my mouth. But we should all be very proud of the most legendary stock car driver to ever come from the West Coast. He maybe didn't win as many races or championships, but he's truly a West Coast legend. He was recently inducted into the NASCAR National Hall of Fame. He intended to be here tonight and to present to Garrett Evans. Garrett, of course, is from Wenatchee, Washington, and Herschel spent a good part of his life in Portland, Oregon. Herschel McGriff right after the Kyle Petty charity ride. And just as the very day he heard that he was in, went to the Mayo up in Rochester, not serious. They're trying to fix his back so he can walk again. But he asked me day before yesterday on the phone to thank one and all that had anything as far as support in getting him into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I'm going to turn the mic back to Ralph Sheheen. See you a little bit later this evening. Again, thank you for being here. And I'm going to try to find my glasses so I don't continue to stumble. Thank you. I got rehired. About 10 or 12 years ago, I was invited to a business lunch in Modesto one day by the fellow that leased the Stockton Speedway from me. And he said, I want you to meet this guy. So said I'd be glad to drive over and do that if I could be of any help to him or anybody involved. So I did. And this fellow came walking through the door, and I didn't realize that was who we were going to meet with. Kind of a tough-looking guy. Came to the table. He hadn't been to the table even a minute, and I liked him. His name is Carlos Vieira. Carlos has had one incredible life, which will continue. Not only are Carlos and his wonderful wife, Asia, good friends, but Carlos's varied initiatives are strong to our society and priceless. In addition to being the driving force behind the California Central Valley Autism Foundation and sharing his life in earlier years with the world in an attempt to stop drug and alcohol addiction with his new book, Knocking Doors Down, he decided that he wanted to create an award for the Hall of Fame that would recognize organizations or persons that were of philanthropic nature and were doing special things for people in communities, hospitals, schools, you name it. No real rules. It wasn't all about how much money someone had. It could be somebody that had an idea and it got carried through. But we talked about how could we go about this, and we, a year ago, recognized our first honor for former California Lieutenant Governor Mike Curb, who founded Curb Records. We had some very interesting nominations for this year. The prevailing honor this year is going to go to the Speedway Children's Charities, the Sonoma chapter. At this time, I would like to ask Jill Gregory to come and join me at the podium. Jill, I'm going to present you with a beautiful remembrance for this honor and award and a check from the Carlos Vieira 5150 Foundation and the West Coast Hall of Fame for $10,000. And from a personal note, thanks for all you've done to help me make this a great evening. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty proud of it. And I do think you're young. You got the mic.
Thank you, Ken. Is that my check? Oh, it's in his briefcase. Thank you guys all for coming. Congratulations to all the inductees. This is an amazing honor for Speedway Children's Charities overall, not just the Sonoma chapter. Since the time that Bruton Smith started Speedway Children's Charities, the organization has raised over $62 million for charity throughout the course of the different chapters that we have. Yes. And each chapter contributes every day. Part of their community involvement, part of our community involvement here at Sonoma is to make sure that we keep that legacy alive. So we will continue to do that here at Sonoma. In fact, you can also adopt a Sonoma sheep if you'd like to raise some money. You'll see that out here at the track this weekend. But appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you, Ken, for this amazing honor. I also would be remiss if I did not say that while Ken was nice enough to give the accolades to the Sonoma Raceway team, that this building and the vision for this was well underway by the time that I got here and by the time the Sonoma Raceway team got here. A lot of the folks that are responsible for making this all happen that you're seeing today are at the table 22 over there. How you guys doing? Oh, see? Drum roll. Mike Birch, Steve Swift, Jessica Pickensure, Graham Smith, and obviously Marcus Smith is his vision that made this building come alive today. So thank you guys for being here and look forward to a great night.
Greg, I'm not sure which pair of these were yours. Okay, next up on the list, I'd like to introduce to you tonight former inductees that are here with us tonight. If I call your name, could you please stand so we can give you the proper round of applause? Walker Evans, Bill McAnally, Tommy Kendall, Mr. Michael Gaughan, Randy Lynch, Jim Pettit II, Dave Bird, Doug McCown, Howard Kading, John Bickford, Ray Claridge, Pat and Peggy Elder, the mother and daughter of Ray Elder, Butch Gilliland, and Steve Page. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for joining us once again here tonight. Okay. Now, just before we're going to take a quick little break here, but I please would like to welcome to the stage for our prayer tonight, Mr. Bob Butcher.
Good evening, everyone. You join me in prayer. Father, we come to you, Lord, and we recognize the fact that all good things come down from the Father of lights. And Lord, just to be able to be here and to be able to celebrate the giftings and the talents that you have instilled in these people that are not only going to be inducted tonight, but Father, this whole staff, this whole accomplishment here, and everybody in this room have gifts and talents. And we don't just thank you for the food. We thank you for the talents and the giftings you placed in each and every person here that actually chose to develop them in a very practical and way to be celebrated. And we say thank you for that. Lord, would you bless this evening? Come join us now. And we thank you for the food. Amen.
Okay, enjoy your meals, and we'll be right back for our first induction here in just a minute, okay? Okay. I hope you all are enjoying the dinner. I don't know about you, but I thought the food was fantastic. How about it for our chef here tonight and his team? Excellent job. Tremendous dinner. All right, for our first presentation here tonight, our first introduction and induction into the Hall of Fame, I'd like to welcome to the stage one of our board of directors. Please welcome Mr. Harold Osmer.
Nobody knows who I am. So even in this illustrious company, it would be a fair guess that many of you here tonight are unaware that in terms of sheer venue numbers, more auto racing has taken place in Southern California than any other place in the world. From 1903 to the present time, 179 different official venues staged professional auto races. And in those 120 years, countless West Coast drivers ran laps in search of fame, fortune, or simply an excuse to turn a wrench while hanging out with his buddies, consuming more beer and cookies than he should. One obvious barometer for auto racing success is the Indianapolis 500. Well, to date, 1/4 of all Indy 500 winning cars were constructed in Southern California. That racing industry legacy is hardly mere history, as our next inductee will attest. NASCAR was formally established in 1948. They held their first West Coast race in April of 1951, and in December of 1956, Hyla Paulson became the first West Coast woman officially licensed by NASCAR to race with the men. Many of us know her as Hyla Sweet now. Roughly 10 years after that, our inductee, who was then a high school junior, successfully negotiated with his mother for he and a friend to attend a race at Riverside International Raceway. The racing seeds were firmly planted, and he decided right then and there that he had to be a part of this. He learned the welding trade and fortuitously connected with a pretty good local racer named Frank Denny, who hired him as his first employee at Speedway Engineering. We're talking, give or take, 1969 here. And for several years in the game, any West Coast driver from San Diego to Washington not running a Speedway Engineering chassis was at a distinct disadvantage. Indeed, Richard Petty himself ran a Speedway Engineering chassis in his final championship season. It took some time and a learning curve worthy of the name for race wins to come his way, which ultimately resulted in his becoming a 3-time Saugus Speedway track champion. This was 1984, 1985, and 1986. Saugus Speedway abruptly closed a few years later, yet he continued racing and won another championship at Orange Show Speedway. In all, this man won over 60 stock car races during his career, always competing in the top division. His general philosophy includes this nugget: under green flag conditions, you are either passing cars or you are in the way. A racing record like his easily warrants Hall of Fame consideration, but even more, our inductee heads Speedway Engineering, supplying all levels of racers with a variety of high-quality driveline parts, components, and assemblies. Folks, we're talking over half a century of driving competition, business success, and deep involvement in the industry that stirs the passion in all of us here tonight. His continuing work and devotion to motorsports furthers the legacy as established by those Southern Californians who raced long before us. The gods are smiling upon you should you ever cross paths with a more knowledgeable, sincere, or spiritual man. Ladies and gentlemen, the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame proudly presents Mr. Kenny Sapper.
Good evening, everybody. I do have a few notes here, but I just wanted to thank everybody every member of the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. I just wanted to thank everybody for their consideration. I'm very humbled by this whole process, and I'm humbled and I'm honored, and I'm grateful that you found me worthy to give me this award. I consider everyone here my peers in this industry, and your approval means so much to me. My love for this sport did get started as a teenager. Like Harold had mentioned, I wanted to go to Riverside Raceway, and it was about 60 miles from my house, and you would have thought I would have wanted to go to New York, but my mom relented and let me go. From there, I just knew I wanted to be involved in the industry, and I made sure that I got connected with people that could get me into this industry. I would say I was most influenced by Frank Daney Sr., who was a Saugus Speedway champion at the time, and he was a fellow welder. We hit it off. He hired me, and I was his first full-time employee, and I was so proud of the fact that I was working for Speedway Engineering, and I still am today. I admired Frank's ability to, his competitiveness on the racetrack and his fairness with the other racers, and I admired how he ran Speedway Engineering to help the competitors like they were his friends. He just wanted them to be successful if we made their parts. From there, I started my racing career, and I learned from him. And I learned from a lot of other great racers that were from Saugus Speedway. Jim Thurkettle, Don Knoll, Bill Foster, Orrin Prosser, True Cheek, George Beal, all people that just didn't have to help me, but they did. I was most proud when Frank offered me, the shop car at Speedway Engineering to drive. I mean, I had some big shoes to fill. We had Jim Thurkettle. We had Sonny Easley. We had Joe Ruttman driving those cars. And here I get to actually drive one of them that said Speedway Engineering on the side and represent our company. When Frank's passed in 1986, my whole life changed. My new role became a leader at Speedway Engineering, and it didn't happen overnight. I had to learn to keep working alongside the employees so Speedway would succeed as a team. Many of our employees through the years were still, and they're invaluable. You have to have good people on your team, and I assure you that we did. I learned another key to success is to treat our customers like I'd want to be treated. Helping both the novice and professional racers as best I could. From this, I have made so many friendships all over the world, and I will always cherish this. In the 90s, the sportsman car ride opened up, and I needed a little stress relief. So my friend Ivan Baldwin suggested I go racing at Orange Show Speedway in San Bernardino. And many of you here probably remember Ivan. He was tough. But anyways, he had some good advice every once in a while. And there we had success for another championship. But after the 2003 race season, we sold the car, and I worked solely at Speedway Engineering to help the business that had become an approved sponsor for the NASCAR divisions. That gave me great pleasure. The teams that use our stuff, like Brendan's team, Bill McAnally, they make us look so good. They just run our parts the best they can, and they win the races. Anyways, I enjoy the short track business as well as the pro touring and the hot rod markets. I'd like to thank my family that's here tonight, My wife Joni's here, my son from North Carolina, my lovely daughter Laura, my good friend, what's his name? Anyway, my good friend Bill. Anyway, I want to thank you all, and especially Ken Clapp for all the charity work they do. I want to thank you again. Good night.
Our next two presenters are members of one of the West Coast's most famous racing families. Please welcome to the stage Butch and Todd Gilliland.
Hey everyone, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Such a special night, having the honor to induct my dad in the West Coast Motorsports Hall of Fame. All my earliest memories with my family were at the racetrack watching my dad race. One that comes to mind is watching him, the M&M's 38 car, get the pole in his first ever Daytona 500. A few years ago when I was in the K&N West Series with my dad along my side every step of the way, racing up and down the West Coast, going to so many of the coolest tracks I've ever been to, hearing from the fans. I've watched Gilliland's race here for years. I really learned a lot of what my dad and Grandpa Butch meant to the West Coast of racing. These couple years meant so much to me, as it was the most time I had gotten to spend with my dad working in the shop at Bill McAnally Racing. Now on to a new task of building and running a race team in the Camping World Truck Series, along with a lot of other series at times. He was still leaving his footprint in the racing world. So thankful to have such a good teacher and role model along the way. So proud to induct my dad, my hero, David Gilliland.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I made a little trip to get here to be at this special event. Really proud of my son, David, also and Todd, what they've done for racing, and David's team owner now, and helping the young kids come up through racing. But none of this would have happened without the people of NASCAR and the racing community that we've raced with. Because they had taught, not only when I raced, but they taught David, because David was all these races with us. He's just a real kid. But Mike Velarde, Ken Clapp, Owen Kearns, all the officials, just makes it very special. But anyway, thank you very much, and congratulations, Dave, David. You are well received here, I think.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Everybody looks great, and what a special night, what a special evening. I'd like to start by saying what an absolute honor it is to be inducted into the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame. I still remember when my dad got inducted and how proud I was of him. Growing up on the West Coast, I got to watch a lot of you guys win races. As a kid, while my dad was getting his feet under him on the West Coast, it was you guys motivated me and along the way. So I grew up working on my dad's race cars. I was a mechanic, and he kind of took it upon himself to teach me how to build a race car, and that's how the steps that he took to try and make me successful. So I'm very appreciative of that. Let's see here. I'll never forget when I was young, sneaking in the pits and just waiting to hear the cars fire up. I still love that sound today. Let's see. We won the championship in 1997 with my dad. I was his crew chief in the Winston West Series, and that was a super special year for me. From there, I really started to try and drive myself. I was very fortunate to drive for so many great people. There have been so many people along my journey that have worked so hard and sacrificed so much for me to pursue my passion to race. This is truly a team sport. There is not one of us that would be here on our own. My family has always been there by my side through all the ups and downs that come at us in this sport. As we all know, there are plenty of those. Michelle, you have been my rock through it all. Thanks for always shooting me straight. You have always been there to lift me up when I was down and knock me back down when I was flying a little too high. She's really, really good at that. I'll hear about this speech too probably when I'm done, but I love you very much, and thank you for all your support over the years, and wouldn't be up here. I don't think Todd would be up here without you either, so thank you. I've been so blessed to be able to race as much as I have. The racing community truly is a family. Some of my best memories in racing have been watching my son Todd race and accomplish all he has been able to do. As a dad, there is nothing like seeing your kids succeed at what they love. I am very proud. There has been 3 generations of Gillilands that have got to race in the Cup Series. This is a very special evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. I'd like to especially thank my friends and family that came out and supported me tonight. I wouldn't be up here at all if it wasn't for each and every one of you. May God bless you all and have a great evening. Thank you.
Well, and the way Todd's going these days, we might be putting in a third Gilliland here, not too far down the road. Pretty exciting. And for anybody getting sleepy out there tonight, you can't do it. Butch Gilliland came all the way from Thailand to be here today, landed at noon, and came straight out here to be with us tonight. So I know Butch is dealing with some jet lag here today. Thank you for coming all the way to be with us, Butch. Great to have you here. Such a special weekend for us with the Hall of Fame because we're always a part of this huge NASCAR weekend here in the wine country. Such a great opportunity to have NASCAR here competing at this fantastic raceway here at Sonoma, and for our event to be a part of the kickoff to the weekend each and every year. So thank you to our good friends at NASCAR for once again bringing the Cup Series and the Truck Series out here to race in the wine country. So glad to be here and be a part of it and to be here with us tonight for our function. And with that, I'd like to introduce our next presenter for our next induction. Please welcome the Chief Operating Officer of NASCAR, Mr. Steve O'Donnell.
Thanks, Ralph. Oftentimes, the best compliment a racer can receive is that they're a true racer, and it comes from the garage. And Garrett Evans is certainly that and more. And you heard from Ken Clapp. I think Herschel McGriff would like to be here to really do this justice, and that's a testament to what Garrett's done. But West Coast, Southwest, Northwest, you name it, he's raced there and he's won. He won the first event at one of my favorite tracks, at Evergreen in 1985. He's won twice in the NASCAR Southwest Tour. He's competed in the Winston West with a second-place finish at the Bull Ring at Las Vegas, and also drove in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. And with all that, he's a 4-time Northwest Super Late Model champ, a series he owned and promoted. I'm sure that created some challenges as well, but really impressive feat. And he's also a 4-time NASCAR Elite Northwest Series Tour champion. He's the all-time series leader in victories with 50 and has 55 pole wins as well, which is the all-time record. Since 1999, he's continued his racing career off the track. Operates Wenatchee Valley Raceway and was named the Western Auto Racing Promoters Association Lifetime Achievement Award winner in 2019. He's had an incredible career racing, but he's also continued to contribute to the sport off the track as well. And it's my honor tonight to introduce to the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, Garrett Evans.
Man, it is an honor to be here tonight. See a lot of my heroes out here and a lot of my friends. I'm really sad that Herschel couldn't be here tonight. As somebody I looked up to, we were pallbearers at Rick Henderson's funeral a long time ago, and he's inducted into the Hall of Fame. But one thing, when I was growing up, we always looked up to Herschel McGriff. He drove the Old Express up in the Northwest. But my wife, who I've been with for 35 years, and mentioned to me when we first started going out that I was still having fun because she was still young. And that always made me think of Herschel. And anybody that knows Herschel, I think he would get a kick out of that, you know. But I've enjoyed 6 decades of short track racing, 6 decades of rock and roll, and a little bit of country because of George Jefferson, who's also in the Hall of Fame. But I'd like to thank the people that have helped me along the way. My brother Stephen loaned me the money to buy my first car, which was a Winston West car we bought for $2,500 that was in a dairy farm in a barn. And then my wife, who's been with me along the way, my crew chief, John Vickery, who's here tonight, was with me for over 20 years. Michelle Monroe and Jeremy Andrews, who helped run the racetrack, and we're all co-owners now and partners in crime. And Michelle and Jeremy helped me with the series when we started it up. Back in '74, my dad took me out to Indianapolis for my graduation present. And we went out to the Indiana Fairgrounds on a Friday night. It was a mile dirt track. I seen something that I'd never seen before. I seen a man walk on water. He was a West Coast guy. His name was Jan Offerman. I was so impressed that I ended up naming my son after him. But I want to say that tonight I get to join a special group of guys that all walked on water, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
I know every driver in this room could pick out a famous name as somebody that inspired them to become a racer. For me, as an announcer, this next presenter was somebody who inspired me to chase my dream. Many of you know him as the legendary voice of the Sacramento Kings, but of course, so many in the room also know him as a legendary voice of the famed West Capitol Raceway back home in Sacramento. Please welcome Mr. Gary Gerald.
Thank you, Ralph. And it's great to be in the company of so many here tonight. You can't help but be blown away by the amount of talent that is spread around in all reaches and all corners of this particular room. And it's a distinct honor, of course, to be part of these proceedings, to be able to present Jimmy Sills for induction into the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. In my nearly 60 years of being involved in motorsports, one of the things that I have developed is an appreciation for versatility. And in my mind, Jimmy Sills defines versatility in motorsports. His record of excellence is beyond impressive. Now, He's primarily, of course, known as a dirt track specialist, but he has driven stock cars on pavement here in Northern California with success, down under in Australia, IROC cars on the high banks at Daytona, and also in the celebrity race at Long Beach Grand Prix some years back, where Jimmy is quick to tell you that he outqualified Tommy Kendall. Tommy, I don't know if you're in the house tonight, but chew on that for just a little bit, if you will. It, of course, is on dirt, where Jimmy Sills truly excelled for nearly 35 years. He started racing super modifieds at West Capitol Raceway in the early 1970s in West Sacramento. A couple of years later, he and Bob Davis decided it was time to pull a sprint car east and head toward the Pennsylvania Posse and challenge them on the sprint car circuit. As he honed his skills on every imaginable type of racetrack known to man, from the bull rings to the mile ovals, he racked up impressive wins, USAC competition in midgets, in sprints, the Silver Crown dirt cars, as well as winning on a frequent basis in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Tour. He won the famed Dirt Club up at Skagit in Washington on 6 different occasions. And in 2006, he was proudly inducted into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame in Knoxville, Iowa. By his own estimate, Jimmy says he's won somewhere in the vicinity of over 300 feature events. For 18 years, he ran the Jimmy Sills Racing School in Marysville, where he became known as the Professor, helping countless aspiring drivers to either enhance or launch their racing careers. He also collaborated with Dave Argabright to write an immensely entertaining book called Life with Luke, poking some series of fun at a number of races he ran in Northern California under the alias of Luke Warmwater after Jimmy Sills had allegedly retired. It's a terrific read. If you haven't ever had a chance to skim through the pages, there are tales in there that you just won't believe from a stellar racing career. But for all of his success in the cockpit, behind the wheel, the best part about Jimmy Sills is the fact that he's just a downright good human being. I've been blessed to know him for 50 years now, and I could not be more proud to be here tonight to see him inducted into the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. Would you welcome Jimmy Sills?
Wow, what an honor. And thank you. Thank you to Ken and everybody on the board to give me this honor. And this is a great honor because it's not in my discipline of racing. You know, all my stuff was primarily dirt track and so an open wheel. So it's really an honor to be up here. For me to do what I did, I had to rely on car owners because I didn't have enough money to buy a car, and I figured if I stayed driving and not owning, I would be on the plus side of the financial part of this deal. So it worked out well for me. I had 51 car owners in I won't thank every one of them here tonight and bore you with that, but a couple of them will come up in some stories I have here. Ed Watson was my first car owner, and we raced at West Capitol. He actually did some racing with my stepdad, so I knew him before, and I had to help finish a second car that Larry Burton drove. Some of you people here might know Larry Burton from being the promoter of Roseville Speedway and the Rose Classic, which I'm sure some of you guys raced at. He helped me a lot in my career, and so that was my team. I got to race a top-notch car and was able to win a race after my 6th week of racing. After that, I thought I should win every week. So did everybody else. I was probably reading my press a little too much, and I learned a lot about repairing my car every week after that. So then I learned how to slow down and save my equipment, and was winning more races, and my paycheck at the end of the night was a lot better. Larry Burton also got me my first trip to Australia, which set me up for another 14 trips down under. Had some great times down there. First time I went down, Larry says, you can come down. He says, you're going to have to find a car to bring. And Don Tognati had just bought out Rebel Jackson's team. And so Mike Andreetta got a nice 4-bar Edmunds car they had. And I had a car that was a cross-spring front car that Jerry Day built. But it was a great working car, had much success down there, and got invited back for several more trips. Another trip I made down there, I was driving for a couple guys named Duke McMillan and Bill Shadle. Well, during the summer, me and Duke McMillan spent the summer in the Midwest racing the car, and so wintertime came and Australia trip was coming up, so Bill Shadle went with me down to Australia. Well, back then, things weren't quite as good as they are now in Australia, and it was a little rough out there traveling around, and we had a F-150 Ford pickup that the promoters gave us to tow our little open trailer around, and that's all we kind of needed, and filled up the back of the pickup with some parts. And so we take off across the bush to get from Adelaide or Melbourne back to Sydney, and somebody told us, says, you know, there's not many gas stations out there, so you guys probably ought to carry some gas. So a couple of fuel cans that we had for the race car, we filled up with gas. So sure enough, we run out there in the middle of the bush, and we turn on this safari light, which was a pretty big light, pretty bright light. Every insect within 5 miles headed for that light. So it was all we could do to not swallow a bug and get the gas in the truck. So we go down the road, and we run out of gas again. Well, now we're out. And we're out so far, there's not a light you can see from a farmhouse or anything. There's no traffic. Finally, an 18-wheeler shows up, and guy pulls up there and says, got a bit of a problem there, mate? He says, yeah, you suppose you give us a ride down to the gas station? He says, oh, it's a long ways down now. He says, I'll do you one better. I says, we'll just tow you. Tow me? So I looked at Shayla, he looked at me, and we go, okay. So he backs up and hooks this chain on there, and he says, now while I'm going through my gears, try and keep the slack out of the chain. All right, you got it. So we go down the road, and he goes through all the gears, and I'm doing good at keeping the slack. Well, he goes a few miles, and he finds another gear. Well, I run clear up on the back of the truck because I'm not ready for it, and all of a sudden, I'm up to the trailer, and then the trailer takes off, and I thought the chain was going to pull the whole front end off our truck. So we keep going. Everything's good. Looked at Shayla and go, well, you know, if nothing else happens, I think we'll be all right. I'm getting comfortable because I'm driving without the headlights because I don't want the battery to go dead because it's a ways to go. I got no power steering, no power brakes. But we're rolling down the road about 70 miles an hour. And the national highway there is only a 2-lane road. And if 2 trucks are passing each other, both are usually off on the shoulder. So it's not a very good road. Well, next thing happens, it starts raining. So now those taillights that I was looking at are just little glows of red off there in the distance. So I go, well, you know, this might not be too bad. We could probably live through this. And all of a sudden, it starts raining so hard that it's filling up the swells in the road because the road isn't very level. They didn't have a lot of planning there. So now, whenever we hit the down parts, our truck is hydroplaning. Well, the hydroplane's off to one side or the other, and that old chain just grabbed it back and put it back behind that trailer. So I says, well, Bill, you know, we might make this all right. And so finally, the driver gets us to the truck stop, unchains us, and we're filling up our truck and our gas cans, and he's in there laughing, pointing at these crazy Yanks that he just towed in. And so that was kind of how it was in Australia. It was a little wild back then. So I raced sprint cars for a number of years, had a lot of success. I kind of wanted to branch out and try some different stuff. And like Gary was talking about, being more versatile. And so I started running more midget races, going back to sprint cars without wings. And so I really had an attraction towards the Silver Crown cars. And so I called Jack Hewitt, who had won several championships and a lot of races. And I asked him, I said, so how about the Silver Crown cars? He says, they're the most fun there is to drive. You go really fast, you run mile tracks, and you run 100 laps, so you get to be in your race car longer. And he says, actually, they pay good. He says, there's only 12 races in this series, and it makes up about a third of my my income. So I go, okay, that's what I'm going to go for. So ended up driving Silver Crown. Drove for some great car owners, Bob Consani from Santa Rosa here, Gary Stanton, who was from Arizona, who manufactured sprint cars for a while and now builds engines. And he's got one of the best midget engines called the SR11 for those. We won a couple championships with him, drove for George Snyder and A.J. Foyt. And I'll give you an idea how much we love champ cars. I went to the Holman 100 because a friend of mine and a kid that went through my school, and he's been a real successful sprint car driver. His name's Justin Grant, and he was making his debut at the Holman 100. So I'm standing there with Jack Hewitt, and we're in the pits, and we're watching hot laps, and I looked at Jack, and I said, you know something, Jack? You know I don't have any trouble turning down a sprint car ride, but if somebody came and offered me a really good Silver Crown car, I think I'd have to take him up on it. And so Jack told me, he says, you know what? He says, watching these cars is like watching porn. He says, pretty soon you want to be a participant. Some of the other things I got to do in racing, I got to test the IROC car in Daytona. Dan Cotter, who was the president of True Value Hardware, and they sponsored the Silver Crown Series, and he wanted the winner from that to go into IROC. So he talked to Jay Signori about it, and Jay says, you know, I don't know, that guy's never driven much stock cars or big tracks, so if he can get himself to Daytona, says, we'll do some testing. So I went down there. Man, I'll tell you, I know why you guys like those stock cars, because you get them on a big track, they're fun to drive. And so got to go out and learn how to draft. And Jim Sauter was one of the test drivers at that time, and he told me, he says, you could win one of these races now. The opportunity never came up. I didn't win the championship again. And I guess they were wanting better-known drivers for their marquee. Another thing I got to do one day, a guy named Greg Glander worked for Toyota, and he calls me up and asked me if I would like to go to the Long Beach Celebrity Race. I didn't know what it was, but hey, that sounds good to me. So I go down to Long Beach, and man, I'm with some good company there. Jack Brabham, world champion, car builder. Ivan Stewart, winner of the Baja 1000, I don't know how many times, and he did it by himself, which was really special. And Tommy Kendall. Tommy went on to win, I think, every Trans Am race they had that year, so, man, this guy knows what's going on. So we start our qualifying, and I think our qualifying run lasted 30 minutes or so, and so I'm out there, and I'm running around, and I look in the mirror, and Tommy Kendall's following me down the straightaway. I go, something's wrong here. I should be following him. Well, Tommy's motor wasn't as strong as mine, and I don't know, but I can imagine Tommy coming into the pits, and they're going, hey, Tommy, that dirt guy is out there faster than you. And so Tommy came back out on the track, and so he used me to tow him down the straightaways to help his time, and so he was second quick. So I thought the next day, I got this covered. I'll be long gone by the time we get to Shoreline Drive. Well, rightfully so, they gave him one that ran a little bit better, and our pace car pulled off, and the celebrities were gone, and we get down to turn one, and there's a big old crash, and the celebrities got body parts flying everywhere. Well, Sir Jack Brabham, because he's a racer, he's in his 70s, but he still knows how to race, and so he just runs by all of them. He slides up into the pack about 5 cars ahead of us, and they're black flagging him. He doesn't care. He just keeps on running. Finally, Tommy catches up to him down the long straightaway, and Jack's blocking him because he's a racer. And finally, they catch bumpers, and here's Jack Brabham spinning around. Plastic body parts are flying everywhere, and I go, oh my God, I don't want to be a guy that hits Sir Jack in the door. So I got slowed down, missed everything, and Tommy Kendall, like the champion he was, he drove off into the sunset. So it was a great experience for me. Then I started a school. I had sprint cars and midgets, and I had classes where somebody that just wanted to come and drive a sprint car to see what it's like could pay money and do that. They were pretty scary a lot of the times. And me being a driver and not worrying about the damage, now I'm on the other side of it, so I'm getting paid back for all that. We had some good people come through our class. Casey Kane is one of them. Ed Carpenter, IndyCar driver. He was in open wheel cars then, is another one. Two-seater sprint cars kind of became a thing, and so I called Jack Hewitt, my career counselor, and says, because he had one, and says, so how's that going? He says, it works out great. He says, I'm doing good financially. It's fun to do. You get to be in a race car. So Rod Tyner, a friend of mine, found a car that was crashed in the rear, and he made a two-seater out of it. So we took it around to several tracks, and one night we were up at Elma, Washington, and Fred Brownfield was the promoter, and so I asked Fred if I could run after the races, and he says, okay, I'll tell you what. He says, wait until everybody's off the track, and he says, I'll have my people stay out there for, another half or another hour. He says, you can run for an hour. So we had all these people lined up. I think I had 14 uniforms, and we had them all suited up. 80, maybe 90% of them were drunk because it was after the races. I don't know what Fred was serving up there, but it was good stuff. So we get everybody in there. We're doing rides. There's a lady who's a little big, and when she gets into the car, she's claustrophobic. So I had a guy, we call him Porky, and he put her in the car, and he's strapping her down, and she's breathing hard, and she's scared. So we have a steering wheel that the passenger can hold on to and let them feel like they're driving, or just hold on to it. And some people were too big for us to get the wheel on. Well, he got her strapped in and pulled the belts down really tight, and then he was able to get the steering wheel on. So we go out, and as I'm coming off the racetrack, I hear her back there screaming. And a lot of people are yelling because they just had the thrill of their life running around there in a sprint car. And so I come to a stop, and I go, you need to get her out of there. And they go, oh, I thought she was hollering. She's having a good... No, this is a different holler. She's screaming bloody murder. She says she's dying in there. So Porky goes to undo her helmet. He thought, well, if he can get the helmet off, she'll fill out in the open and she'll be just fine. Well, her husband had put the helmet on and tied the strap in a knot. Well, he couldn't get the knot undone, so he thought, well, undo the belts so she's not tied in. So he undid the belts. Well, then her human airbag blew out into the steering wheel, and he couldn't get the steering wheel off. And she's still screaming bloody murder the whole time. Get me out of here, I'm dying. And so finally, Porky grabs the steering wheel, and he elbows her in the gut, and she exhales enough for him to get the wheel off. And we were able to grab her and pull her out. But yeah, that was just some of the fun times we had. Did the book with Dave Argerbright. It's full of a bunch of stories like that. And the reason I wrote a book wasn't because I won more races than anybody or I was a champion. I wrote it because it was fun, and, we'd be around our friends, and people would go, those are great stories. You need to write a book. So I wrote a couple of chapters and gave them to a couple of writers when I went to the Chili Bowl, and darn if Dave Argerby didn't call me and say, I think we can do something here. So we ended up, we called it Life with Luke, because Lukewarm Water was my alias for a couple of races, and so it was just all fun. So thank you, everybody. It's a great honor. Thank you.
Well, I know Father's Day is right around the corner, and if you got a racing father in your family, Jimmy's book is spectacular, as he's talking about. Definitely one they'll enjoy. Well, on to our next presenter. Please welcome to the stage former president of USAC here on the West Coast, Mr. Tommy Hunt.
Greetings, my friends. This is a wonderful turnout tonight. Wonderful people, legends of the sport. I'm so impressed with this situation here. Wonderful facility. I hope that the Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame continues to be here. And I can tell you that we certainly enjoyed the meal, and I'm sure you all did. At any rate, I'm up here to present this honor to Mr. Phil Casey. Phil is a friend of mine. I've known Phil for a long time. I was fortunate enough to be around when Phil was a chief mechanic with the IndyCar group, worked for several different car owners. Probably the most notable of those would be my good friend's father, the Gerhardt Racing Team. During that period of time, Gary Bettenhausen, Art Pollard, and Bruce Walkup drove the cars. Gary Bettenhausen won 2 races for Phil at that time. As time went on, Phil moved along to the Vels Parnelli Jones team, and Al Unser was his driver, and he won 2 additional national championship races under Phil's tutelage. He was most successful with the Interscope team, which was Danny Onguy's, a gentleman that was commonly referred to as on the gas, and Danny won 5 races. Phil was a person that could be involved in a team, take care of the technical details of the team, help with the preparation of the car, put the team members together. He was a calming presence always. And as a young man, and knowing Phil, and getting an opportunity to be around him occasionally, he was somebody that basically taught me a lot, and I certainly appreciate that. When Phil called me and asked me to be his presenter tonight, I can't tell you how honored I was. I was surprised, but I was certainly honored, and I appreciate that. He's a man of legendary statistics and things that he accomplished. He also was the chief mechanic for Janet Guthrie in 1977 when she became the first woman to qualify for the Indianapolis 500. In 1996, Phil was involved in the formation of the Indy Racing League. During that period of time, he was a technical director, but he also served a lot of purposes in that situation and helped to get that program going. A very good organizer. When an effort was made to do something about safety in reference to barriers on racetracks, Phil was very involved
in the development of what we call the safe wall or safer barriers now. It's a tribute to him that he was involved in that, because when you think of the number of people whose lives have been saved by those safer walls over the years, it's pretty incredible that something like that has been that much of a change in our sport. Phil has always been a person that was willing to help and often was doing double duty to help those in need, as well as be the chief on his primary team. In 1969, Phil was burned extensively in a pit incident at Phoenix International Raceway. I was working the pit next to him and saw the whole incident. It was not pretty, but due to many people who reacted swiftly, his injuries were survivable. Regardless of his burns, Phil was tough and soon was back to work. His work ethic was unquestioned and was certainly respected by the racing community. At this point, I would like to welcome Phil Casey into the West Coast Motorsports Hall of Fame. And I think that Ralph is going to go down to Phil, since Phil just recently broke a hip.
West Coast Hall of Fame. Ralph Sheheen, congratulations, is taking over. It's a great honor, Tommy. What a great, you made me look good. No, we've been friends a long time. You've done a great job. Great race driver. Your son, great race driver. And Gaughan, great friend. My break really came in racing when Fred Garrett hired me
Okay. Amazing night. So many amazing people here. Please welcome to the stage our next presenter, former NASCAR Cup Series champion and a Daytona 500 winner. Please welcome Kurt Busch.
Good evening. Great to see the West Coast family here tonight, and thank you to Sonoma Raceway for such an incredible building, and Jill Gregory for your vision. This is a new trend for our sport and for the hospitality side of how our sponsorships and how our tracks need to present ourselves. So this is really nice. Thank you for tonight. Great to see some of the West Coast racers as well. The Gaughan's here. There's some of my boys in the Southwest Tour, Pettit, McCown. Boy Biff, and 3 generations of Gillilands. I mean, I can't keep up with these guys. Great to see you. Congratulations again. Tonight I'm here to introduce a fellow blue-collar racer in the way that I was raised by my father. It was about passion, and it was about something that you wanted to do because, well, hell, it beat everything else out there. It was to go race cars. It was to work hard during the week and to get to go play on race weekends. And for most of us, just like Jim here, when we took the green flag in our first race, all we wanted to do was get to the finish. And it was because we wanted the car in one piece, or it was because it was our parents' goal to keep the car in one piece. Each lap we ran, we got better, right? And our goals changed. That's everybody in this room. And we got better equipment, or we traveled to different tracks. We met other people. We met sponsors. And if we were lucky enough, we got to continue to do what we loved. When you hear about dairy farming and racing, you might instantly be drawn to Indianapolis. But for racing fans in Northern California, dairy farming and racing meant Jim Walker. Starting his racing career in a tiny town of Ferndale, California, Jim was often the guy to beat at Redwood Acres Raceway in Eureka, where he won multiple Superstock championships, including back-to-back titles in 1970, 71, 72. Jim's successes at his home track opened the door for him to become a frequent traveler around the West Coast. And competing at short tracks up and down the coast, he was in his number 48 Walker Blue late model. In addition to racing short tracks, his travels also took him to Riverside International Raceway, where he bested a loaded field, including Bobby Allison, Ivan Baldwin, and Herschel McGriff, to win the 1976 Permatex 300. And Jim would also compete in the Permatex 300 at Daytona International Speedway that same year. Jim's wins are as impressive as his commitment to the sport of racing. As a blue-collar kid from Vegas, guys like Jim are the type of racers I looked up to when I was younger. On behalf of the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, and on behalf of all the great local racers who are the lifeblood of our sport, congratulations to Jim on being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Hi, as most of you probably know, I'm not Jim. Jim is my dad. And I'm so sorry that he can't be here tonight to see this. What a special honor this is for him. It's such a beautiful venue, and I just thank you for honoring Dad in this way. I know he's very excited about it, but he's home tonight. He couldn't be here because he had a stroke a little while ago, and he lost his ability to communicate. But after some hard work, he's gotten a lot of that back. But an event like tonight would have been really overwhelming with all these people. So he sent me and my sisters, which we enjoyed because we got to come shopping and do all kinds of things. And we got off the dairy ranch for a little bit. So that was fun. Before I left, though, I got a chance to talk to Dad, and we talked about a few things that he would like to share. So I'd like to share those things with you. The first was that Dad's passion was for racing, and it was for over 60 years. 60 years plus, he's just loved racing. He started racing after his semi-pro baseball and then semi-pro football career. And the football career ended because he didn't want to leave town. And so he started racing. And so there was one thing, though, that was his passion was greater than racing, and that was his desire to stay home and raise cows. And so that's what he did. And so we are so thankful for the opportunity that he had from all these West Coast racing associations that allowed him to compete not far from home. He would drive all night long to get to a race, and come back all the way, and the next night, just to make sure he didn't miss as many milkings as he would have had he had to go further away from home. And it was the only thing that would get him off the ranch. And so we really liked that, because then we got to get off the ranch too sometimes and go shopping. And that was a lot of fun. He said he is very thankful for the competitors. When I told him about all the different inductees, he kind of smiled and he goes, I remember him, and I remember him, and I raced with him. And he goes, and he enjoyed racing. He says, but sometimes I beat them. And he really just enjoyed talking about it and going through the memories. The other thing I need to thank that he wants to thank was all the people that worked on his car over the years. Dad considered himself just the driver. And without all those people, he would not have been successful. And with the leadership of his crew chief, Rick Harper, and then his family, they were just great and just stuck by Dad all these years, 60 plus years, and allowed him to compete as he did. Also, our fans. I haven't heard a lot mentioned about fans tonight, but the fans, we kind of learned that fans are just so important and add so much to the sport of racing. And our fans have stuck with Dad 60 plus years. They've been so faithful and so encouraging, and they even knew about this award. When we found out Dad was getting the award, some of us in the family didn't know this kind of award existed, but our fans did. And when it came out, they were just so excited, and they called us, and we've been waiting for him to get this award, been waiting, and go, wow, that was really neat that they were so aware of it even when we were not. So we're pretty excited for them. But the most important person that I know Dad would like to thank is my mom, his wife, Bonnie. She recognized Dad's deep desire to race and knew about his talent, and she made every way possible for Dad to get out and to race. And she called herself the professional spectator because she went through baseball, football, and racing, and then all us girls and all our sports. But she was so much more than a professional spectator. She did whatever it took to get Dad so that he could go and he would be free to compete. Even like saving bloating cows and all those things, and we'd say, Mom, shouldn't we wait for Dad? Well, he's racing. So she would go on, and we would do things that were a little above her pay grade. and sometimes above what we really knew what we were doing. But she made it possible for Dad, and I know he just loves and appreciates so much her support and loyalty. And the last thing I'd just like to say is Dad's, official racing days are over. The stroke affected his eyesight, the right side of both of his eyes. And so, the wall would be an issue, with racing and so on. And so he can't officially race anymore, but his passion for racing has not changed. He and Mom have a regular appointment every weekend, watching all the NASCAR races and just picking their favorite drivers. And I know some favorite drivers, and maybe one of them was up here just a second ago. So I know they cheer for him. And I also know one thing about Dad is there's a trailer, a beautiful new trailer sitting in one of our barns. And inside that beautiful trailer is a beautiful baby blue, Jimmy Walker blue number 48. That was all set to go before his stroke to Tacoma, Washington, Evergreen Speedway. And then when the stroke happened, that wasn't possible anymore. But every once in a while, that baby blue car sneaks out and it goes to our home track and it runs some laps. And I know that Dad has just so much joy from being able to do that. So thank you for this great honor tonight. And we also want to just congratulate all the other inductees as well. Dad said, make sure you mention that. So I did. So thank you.
I didn't realize Kurt Busch was such a sneakerhead. That's a pretty good deal working with Jordan over there. He's got all the latest kicks going. I like that, Kurt. Okay. Well, this next inductee requires 3 presenters, 3 Hall of Famers. So please welcome to the stage Jim Pettit II, Doug McCown, and Dave Bird.
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you for having us here. It is our distinct honor and pleasure to be able to introduce this next inductee into the the West Coast Hall of Fame. The person we're going to induct tonight is a racing icon, a legend, anybody that drove on the West Coast. There's a lot of icons and a lot of people in here, and I'm sure you're all aware of who we're going to talk about. The person we're inducting tonight, he drove a lot of different car owners, a lot of different numbers. Probably most known as a driver of the 56, Ron Esau. So we want to tell you a little bit about Ron. He was the inaugural winner of the NASCAR Southwest Series. In 1986, he was driving for Jack Lee. That year he won 6 races. And if you remember back then, there were a lot of cars. There was like an A main, a B main, a C main. That's a pretty impressive feat. He's also a champion at El Cajon Speedway. In 1978, he won the Sportsman Championship there. Not only that, he ran the Arca Menard West Series. His first start ever was at Riverside. He raced there quite a few times. He ended up racing 55 times in the West Series. He was a Rookie of the Year in 1983. This man also competed in 17 NASCAR Cup Series events. He also competed in 6 Camping World Series, including a 9th place finish in Evergreen, Washington, and he was subbing for Ken Schrader. Ron Esau came from a racing family. It's truly a family sport. His father, George, raced, and also his brother, Larry. They're all well-known competitors on the West Coast. And adding to this already impressive resume, he also was at one of the exhibition race in Japan. He went to an exhibition race in Australia, and his best finish in Australia was a 3rd place at Caldor Park in Melbourne in 1990. And Ron was also the head driving instructor at Drive Tech Racing School in Fontana, California. he went on, he'd mentoring drivers such as Brendan Gaughan, Brandon Witt, pretty impressive resume. And so as we're doing our research, and even though we knew Ron, and it was all our throughout the years, I ran across these quotes. And this one was from Becky McBride. Quote, "He was absolutely determined to have fun at the racetrack. Ron had the ability to make the little guy feel big and the slow guy feel fast. He wanted everyone to feel they belonged there at the racetrack."
So I wanted to tell a little story about Ron. We had talked about it a couple of weeks ago about all the things that he's done for all the other drivers, and I said I got a great story about what he did for me when I went down to El Cajon for the first time. It was in the mid-'90s, and never been there, had never met Ron, and we were struggling. We were 18th fast in hot laps, and Ron came over and he said, "You need some help?" And I'm thinking, well, we need a lot of help, but I'm thinking it's the car. And I said, "Whatever you think." And he said, "Well, if you need some help, I'm going to tell you what you need to do." And I'm thinking, it's not me, it's the car. But he says, "You're looking 30 feet over the hood, and I can tell exactly that's the problem." He says, "This is what I want you to do. When you get to the middle of 3 and 4, I want you to look at the flag stand. Don't look at nothing else. Nothing else between there, the flag stand and your hood matters. And I want you to mat it and give it everything it's got. And then when you get to the middle of 1 and 2, pick a spot in the middle of the back straight away and do the same thing. Don't look at nothing else, and you just got to trust me." And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. Like I said, I don't know Ron. I had never talked to him, and I knew who he was. So qualifying was next, and there's Ron up at the wall, and I'm thinking, oh, guy's watching. I kind of got to do it. And anyway, needless to say, we qualified third and made the dash, and I come off the track, and there's Ron right in the middle of that pit lane going, "Told you so," you know. And anyhow, after that particular race, years after, I always went and looked for Ron and basically asked him, "What do I got to do here now?" You know. But the reason I bring it up, he just didn't do that for me. He did it for everybody. And I could have been, he didn't know me, and I'm competing against him that night, and he spent all that time helping me out. And that's just the kind of guy he was. So I'm glad he's getting inducted and honored to be up here to help with the induction.
Yeah, you know, Ron, he was a racer's racer, and you all know in this room what that means. And he's known for the fierceness on the track and also for the kind soul he possessed. And I came across another quote I'm going to share for you, Becky. It says, in talking about Ron and family, it goes, "They were fierce competitors who liked to travel." And this is from family friend and team scorer. Becky was a scorer for the years. "When they showed up, the other drivers worried."
Story I'd like to share about Ronnie is, as other competitors out there can understand him, is like Dave was saying, that he was there to help each and every one, you know, to the best of his ability. But the thing I really looked forward to seeing Ronnie was at the time that I got to really hang out with him, he was helping other drivers being developed. We always spent the time of telling jokes. That was one thing that we always did. And I'm sure everybody that he's helped can, share some stories like that too. And the one thing that always stood in my mind, he used to always harass me, because anybody that knows Ron knew that he was a die-hard Charger fan. And he used to always tell me, I can't believe what's wrong with you, because my team was a rival of his, and he says, "Your car's yellow and blue, and I just can't believe that you're not a Charger fan." But that's the type of person that Ronnie was, there to help each and every competitor, and always had that big smile, and I just wanted to share that, as Dave was saying, and Doug, he was there to help each and every one of us. And I'm so proud that he's getting inducted also.
Yes, and all three of us are so honored and proud to be up here, and we want to thank you. This is an awesome venue, and we're just so proud to just be in this kind of company in this room. So Ron, he had this eternal smile, It was topped with that handsome mustache, leaving his mark on the fans, the various races for many years. Unfortunately, Ron took his final checkered flag this year. And to accept this honor tonight, we'd like to invite Marcia and David up to accept his induction.
Don't worry, everyone. We'll keep this very short and sweet. We wish you were here, Dad, to enjoy this with us. You've been waiting for this for a long time, and we just can't thank you guys enough, the West Coast Stock Car Hall of Fame, for inducting him. So thank you very much.
For our next presenter, please welcome to the stage off-road racing legend and a member of our Hall of Fame, Mr. Walker Evans.
Well, it's my turn this time. The last time, Brendan was up here doing it for me, and now it's all coming around another way, right? So we'll get a little bit after him. Randy Anderson and Walker Evans Enterprises put a truck together for Brendan, and we took it to Crandon, Wisconsin, and I mean, it just seemed like it was made for Brendan. He just loved that truck. It was a beautiful little Dodge, about 700 horsepower, and he won championships every race almost every time he got in that truck. It was unbelievable, just beautiful. And one day, we're at the shop, and Brendan's talking to me, and he says, what are you going to do next week, Walker? And I said, I'm going to Bob Bondurant School driving, and I'm going to do some testing and playing around over there because I'm going to go drive a stock car in Indianapolis. And he said, you're going to go drive a car on the blacktop? Yeah, I am. Why, you want to go? And he said, oh, I'll give anything to go. Let's go. So he got in the plane with me, and we went over to Phoenix and went through Bob's school a little bit and got started with it. And we're out there with these Mustangs on this road race course, and every time I look in the rearview mirror, there's that doggone car with Brendan in it right behind me. And I'm the one that's supposed to be out there really driving the heck out of it, but there's Brendan right in that truck, in my taillights. I mean, just couldn't believe it. So thought come through my mind. I said, you know, this kid can drive a blacktop. He can drive good. Wonder how he would do in one of my Dodge trucks at the big oval race there at the track. I said, I guess we'll find out. So we entered. Michael wanted him to run as well, and so we put my truck on the track, and Brendan drove beautiful, just fantastically. And that was just the start of it, though, because he drove Xfinity after that. He drove even some Cup Series cars, and he also drove the West Series, too. Lots of cars in the West Series. But I think one of the biggest things he did with the trucks was he won 4 in a row at Texas Motor Speedway, which was just fantastic. I mean, Brendan is one of the all-time greatest guys to hang out with, go out and do things with. I don't care what it is, but he is the man's man. He's fun to hang out with, always got something great to say, builds you up, and I just want to put a little jab in his ribs here just for a moment to say something about that. I think if you aim a TV camera and give him a microphone, I don't know which would come out on top, Clint Boyer or Brendan Gaughan. He is one of the greatest guys. He loves to talk, and he does a great job. I mean, to tell you, he puts it on the line always. So where is Brendan? Let's get him up here. There he is. Right.
All right. Well, thank you, Walker. It's anybody that knows me knows how long I've been around Walker since I was a little boy, and he means a lot to me. So thank you, sir. And I did get to introduce him a few years ago. First off, Ken Clapp, the entire West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, honored the people in this room. Just amazing, some of the legends that have been here that shaped me and helped do me. One of the reasons why I actually decided to retire in 2017 is because of that table right there. And when Butch, I don't know, Todd, I raced against you in 2017, one of the first times in my career, and I looked up and I said, I raced your father for a championship. I raced your grandfather for a championship. Now I raced you, and I said, when you've raced a grandchild, it's time to go. And so, thanks for causing Todd, you got me to retire, so thank you. You know, as a young kid growing up in the desert, if you'd have told me NASCAR and stock car, I would have looked at you and said, how do you spell NASCAR? To be in a Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, it's all due to great people, and it all started, of course, with Walker Evans and Phyllis Evans. That's where anything in racing with me started with the Evans family. Without them, it wouldn't be there. And one person in particular he mentioned, Randy Anderson and Carol Anderson. If anybody watches really goofy YouTube videos, you'll see R.J. Anderson, the Polaris Razor kid that does all the crazy stuff. His father wouldn't let me do anywhere near anything like that when I was racing. He told me not to be a clown, to be a race car driver, and now his son goes out there and does these things, and I yell at him all the time. But, you know, I'll never forget the day Randy actually grabbed me at Crandon by the neck, and I had done something stupid and told me, was I going to be a race car driver or do this for fun? And it was the first time anybody ever told me maybe I could be a race car driver. And I never thought about it. I just was playing. I thought it was just something for fun. You know, I didn't know you could even make a career out of this from Las Vegas. And so Randy's the reason that I did that. And so to Walker, Randy, and all them, I wouldn't be here without you. You know, after that, we met this guy named Bill McAnally. And for me, the West Coast journey started with a plane flight to Sacramento where some of you know a guy named Harley, been with me a long time, changed tires for me. I tried to hit him. I'm telling you, David, I tried to hit that kid for 20 years and I couldn't get him. Front tire changer, you know, had a shot. I used to pay Jackman to drop it early. But Harley picks me up at Sacramento and in a 1986 Thunder Chicken with a milk carton and takes me to McAnally's house to meet this guy I'm going to go race a cup race in Japan for. And I go to his house and I meet this man, Bill McAnally, and I moved Bill McAnally into his new house. That's what we did that day. And sorry, Bill, I don't know if you ever knew this, but we did drop your refrigerator moving it out the front door. I don't know if you ever knew that. But listen, that one race in Japan with Bill McAnally boiled into what really a lot of people remember me on the West Coast for, which is that fantastic, you know, Orleans racing team with Bill McAnally at the helm, the Napa days, what we did and what we were able to do on the West Coast, just absolutely unbelievable. And I would not be here if it wasn't for Napa, you know, and Wayne Wells, one of my favorite, everybody in here, most everybody in here knows Wayne Wells from Napa fame. Wayne was a huge part of that. And Wayne, he brought this up tonight. He remembered my very first thing with Napa when McAnally told me, do not make any promises, go give this. And he handed me literally a speech. He said, read this. And I walked up on a stage. He said, no promises, just read this speech. And I go, yeah, thanks. I walked up and I go, so, yeah. we're going to win a championship this year. And Wayne Wells looked at me from that first day and went, oh, God, I'm going to like this kid. And from then on, him and his wife, Barbara, my favorite redhead in the entire universe, there is no woman as great as Barbara Wells and Wayne Wells, that team over there. They're the greatest individuals in what they did for me, what they continue to do for me all my life. They babysat me all the time. And then, of course, we got hooked up with a guy named Shane Wilson, a crew chief, still crew chiefing again today for Bill McAnally. If you'd have told me 20 years ago that Shane would be back with McAnally 20 years later, I would have lost a very large bet. And Shane is back with Bill in the Truck Series, but without Shane, every one of my big NASCAR wins, all 10 of my national touring wins came with Shane at the helm. So thank you, Shane. Thank you for what you did for me. Thank you for all that stuff. And then, of course, last, one that couldn't be here, my spotter. Many of you remember the Batman. Batman was with me all my career. Batman got COVID last week, and I share an office with him, but I haven't been in the office with him. I was in Baja racing, so I didn't get to see him. But Batman, he couldn't be here, but he's been literally babysitting me since I was 15 years old, spotted for me all my years. We actually own all my businesses together, and the Batman was, anybody that knows their spotter, that has great relationships with spotters, knows they're a big key component of your life. And Bill is the same. We've lived together, we do everything together, and sorry he couldn't be here tonight, because normally Billy wouldn't like to come to these things, but he was kind of bummed he couldn't make it. And then, of course, last, for me, everything is my family. You know, my dad, the South Point, or the Orleans, the Barbary Coast, whatever name you want to give it. My dad always has been there through support, not just me, but so many other racers in this room have been sponsored by Bill, my dad through the years, or races through the years. My mom, who always said in articles that she thought I was spawned, because I always talk about my dad, never mentioned my mom. So I want to make sure I get my mother in there. But, of course, my wife and my 2 kids now are hanging out with me, and I'll do anything. Sorry, Steve, I'd hope they don't go NASCAR racing. Love you. But, one's racing already. I'm not really happy about that. And of course, with my family, my big brother Mikey is here tonight. My 2 brothers are my heroes in life. And my brother Mike has always been a big fan. I even had written into my Penske contract. You like this one? I had to give my big brother a hard card. wrote it into my Penske contract. My brother had to get a hard card. So, my family is so important to me. My brother John couldn't be here. My sister couldn't. But, my family's such big supporters, just as all of us in here. We all have our families that have supported us through this, and it's a huge deal for us. So with that, thank you, NASCAR, Steve, all the NASCAR crew, all the guys here. No, I'm not coming to Phoenix, Jill. I love you to see the garage. That's it. Dave, you got a fighting chance, though. I love California. But no, thank you to NASCAR, beautiful facility. Thank you to Ken Clapp and all you guys, and especially my fellow inductees. Ronnie Esau, I love you guys. I miss Ronnie. He was a big part helping me start out with Walker Evans, and of course, all the rest that are here tonight. Just an honor to be in such a great exclusive club. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
So Brendan is still a desert rat at heart. He was telling me just earlier tonight, he was at Baja for the 500 just a week or so ago. Spent 6 hours stuck out in the desert, hanging off of a cliff with the left front wheel, just dangling out there before they could find somebody come pull them off the cliff and make their way to the next pit. So still racing, still at it. Congratulations and welcome to the hall. Our next presenter is one of our board of directors. Please welcome Mr. Tim Huddleston.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Wow, Ken Clapp, the bar's been raised again, right? Amazing this place is. Pretty cool that we get to break it in and christen it well. And Dave, congratulations too on the awesome stuff that you do. Congratulations to all the other nominees. I'm here to talk about 2 awesome guys that dedicated their life to racing. Art and Michael Atkinson. Art Atkinson started in the 50s. He was a jalopy racer, raced a 32 Ford. There's a picture of him being ejected from the car, flying outside of it at Gardena Speedway in the 50s. What a warrior. Spent his life dedicating him and his family to racing. In the 60s and 70s, he worked for NASCAR. He was actually one of the West Coast promoters and worked on the West Series at the time. Dedicated his life to racing. In the 70s, he actually went to Orange Show Speedway. The Bowman Gray of the West, right? Telling you, that place is a bull ring of bull rings, and he was the guy with his family there promoting it, getting that place up off the ground and becoming an amazing racetrack that still races today. And then he brought along his two sons, Bob and Mike, or Michael A, as we call him. Michael A started as a track hand, would clean the track, working on the racetrack, keeping it going. He even raced a little bit, started his racing career, won the Auto Soccer Championship at Orange Show back in the day. You know, that's a pretty cool accolade when you're a race car driver, man. A lot of people come to watch those auto soccer races at Irwindale Speedway, let me tell you. But in 1999, the cathedral of all cathedrals, Irwindale Speedway, just personal opinion, was built, and Michael A's dream came true. He started his official in 1999 at Irwindale Speedway, and in 2002, he became the chief steward, which was pretty awesome from a guy who'd been raised up with his dad and his brother working at racetracks their whole entire life. It's pretty cool to now become the chief steward. But it was in 2013 that his true dream came true. Mike was now the race director at Irwindale Speedway, which he did an amazing job at leading us racers. I was a racer there at the time. What an amazing job he did at leading the racers and leading the whole band of people to keep that racetrack going. He even raised his two young daughters, Sarah and Janie, in that tower. We call it the Michael A. Tower, the race director at Irwindale Speedway. We lost Michael A. in February of 2021, and he absolutely, we lost him, and it was a big loss for Irwindale Speedway. He was there 24 hours a day, and I truly mean 24 hours a day. When I was fortunate to take over Irwindale in 2018, and my wife Lisa and I left at the end of every day, I'd say, well, Michael, she's all yours. And I slept like a baby because I knew he was there every night protecting that thing. Well, Michael, I haven't slept a night since February of 21. So thank you for all you do. These are two pioneers of the sport that dedicated their lives to racing. Art Atkinson and his son, Michael A. Atkinson. And I'd like to formally induct both of them into the Hall of Fame on behalf of the Hall of Fame, which is truly an honor. I'd like to bring his daughter and Art's granddaughter, Janie Atkinson, up here to receive the award.
I'm Janie. I'm Mike Atkinson's youngest daughter, and I have my sister here, Sarah, and our grandfather, Art Atkinson. This is his oldest daughter, Sandy Atkinson, and Robert Atkinson, which is his oldest son. We're absolutely honored and humbled to be here to represent the Atkinson family. On behalf of both of them, we would like to thank everyone who made this possible. We would also like to thank family, friends, crew members, drivers, and fans for being absolute assets to the sport. Art Atkinson was a racer, a promoter, and an all-around advocate for NASCAR and short track racing. His love for the sport was very obvious, in which he passed down to his children. Mike Atkinson took after art in every way. His love for the sport, a little bit of racing and promoting, along with his genuine heart and soul. Mike always wanted to make everyone happy as a race director, but his dad told him a little secret. You just can't make everyone happy. He most definitely tried his best, and that's what people love the most. These two men put their heart and souls into the sport, and it showed. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet our grandfather, but all the great stories we've heard sounds like our dad followed closely in his footsteps. Art Atkinson made it through a horrible wreck where his car rolled over 6 times, and he got thrown out of his race car, which he survived. Unfortunately, our grandfather passed away on October 17, 1980, from a heart attack. Mike Atkinson also passed away from an unexpected heart attack on February 11th of 2021. We know these two are up there in racetrack heaven celebrating together. Just a couple quick stories, little funny stories about them. So my dad was always known for driving around in his golf cart at Irwindale Speedway. For some reason, his golf cart always had a backfire to it. Chris Klein told my sister a memory. He was racing at Irwindale and winning the modified race. His trailer got broke into. He told my dad, I don't know how I'm going to get home. And my dad said, I have $140. Will that get you home? He said, yes. He said next time he came, he tried to give him $200, but he wouldn't take it. That's just the type of person he was. Along with our Aunt Atkinson, our grandfather would always do the same thing. If there was a racer that couldn't race, or somebody that needed help, or just a little bit of help to get them to race, our Atkinson would always do it, and no one would know who it was, along with Mike. My sister and I do derbies at Irwindale, and I was in a derby car one time, and I made a rookie move. I didn't strap my helmet correctly, and my helmet came off during the derby and completely flew out of the race or out of the derby car. And the only question my dad had was, "Well, is her head in it?" He loved to see us do the best we could, along with Grandpa. He learned a lot from him, and he just, our Grandpa Art just passed everything down to his children, like we said, and now our dad passed it down to us, and we just want to congratulate everyone tonight. It's very well deserved to everyone, and again, it's absolutely an honor to be here and to celebrate all these wonderful people that dedicated their lives to this sport. So thank you guys so much.
Our next presenter is one of the top guys on the West Coast these days. Please welcome to the stage, Cole Moore.
How you guys doing tonight? Man, you guys know me and my dad, we have a really cool relationship, and it's crazy to me that I feel like we're just a couple of kids that love racing cars and winning and doing what we do, and now you're here. It's incredible, and my dad's a man of honor, and His legacy means a lot to him, so just want to say I'm so proud of you. You know, there's no measuring stick or stat line for the spirit and energy somebody brings to the track, and my dad for 20 years now has just been someone of passion and purpose and fun at the track, and man, it's unbelievable. I'll tell you guys a funny story. A lot of people ask me, you know, we race together, so a lot of people will ask me, you know, does he let you win? And roll the time back to 2015. It's my first year racing stock cars, basically, and it's the Firecracker 100. We're racing at Stockton 99 Speedway. Don't quote me on the year. It might be 16, but it's like 20 to go, and I'm leading. It'd be my first win, you know, ever. And caution comes out, 10 to go. We're door to door. It's my first year racing, you know. And come off of turn 4, and he freaking puts me in the wall. And, you know, it was awesome, though. We love it. That's just who we are. We enjoy what we do. And I'm so proud of you, Dad. It's incredible to be here, standing here. I think we got the news in the middle of last year that, you know, this might be happening. And at that time, he was racing at Roseville Speedway for a track championship. And, you know, it was a close battle with him and the guy in second. And he was also in the contention to win the state championship. So, you know, he ends up going on to win the state championship at 58 years old. And this is just last year. So he's still doing the thing out there and kicking ass. And, you know, the passion, like Kurt said, he's a man who just is involved with everything in the West Coast, with the Southwest Tour. He was a huge part of building Roseville Speedway, turning it to the new facility it's in now. Just all the series when it comes to asphalt racing, he's involved, and he's promoting it, pushing it forward. And like I said, he's still out there racing and doing his thing. So I love you, Dad. Get up here. You got a cool trophy.
Holy moly, do I feel like, I think it was the Big Bopper that followed Jerry Lee Lewis when he lit his piano on fire. So I'll do my best. Well, this is, it's like a pinch myself moment, for sure. Let's see here. West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. This is a surreal moment, and I'm super grateful for it. Don't take it lightly. I'm probably I've been doing this for 22 years, and that's a short amount of time compared to the rest of the folks that came up here tonight. I'm just honored to even be in the conversation. It's incredible, and I know it is. But I'll tell you what, like John C. Reilly, when I get my hands on that thing, if anybody tries to touch it, I'll sock them. That's a joke. Too much Mrs. Marcel. I've been watching that. It's fun. So I want to take this moment before I forget to thank Ken. I want to have the biggest toast he's ever had. Look at this. We got this room full of people. And let's all raise our glasses to Mr. Ken Clapp for his passion to promote this sport the way he has. And this is his brainchild right here. Look we're in the middle of it. Ken, you're awesome, bud. There it is. I hope it's a record for you, bud. I love you. I'll take a drink of that. So it's like the universe just spins around me and just keeps guiding me in all these ways. That's the best way I can try to understand what's going on in my world. Pretty much since I was born in Antioch, 1963. It's when Richard Petty was, STP, and I'd go to the gas station as a little boy to get my tire fixed on my bicycle, and I'd get these STP stickers, and I just loved it. Antioch Speedway, I'd sneak over and look over the fence, and it was just in me. I knew somehow, some way, I was going to get in a race car one day. So life goes on, and things happen to me in gas stations. So I meet Miss Tanya at a gas station in 37 years ago. And without her, it takes money to do this sport. And, I had to get mine the hard way. Started with a bucket of tools and a lot of energy. Her and I built a life together, raised 2 boys, and lost one of them to this sport. When my firstborn son, he passed away at Stockton 99, just about 3 years into my stock car racing. And, his brother Cole was 8 years old. And people looked at me and they said, hey, what are you going to do? You going to stop racing? I'm like, no. I'm going to race harder than I ever have to honor JD and to honor my family. So that was that. So that's pretty much what I did, and it's been my joy in my life to do it. To see his brother, go on to make history in the Southwest Tour. Cole was the Rookie of the Year in 2018, and then the champion the following year in 19. No one's ever backed it up like that. Just awesome to honor, himself, me, his brother, his mother. Just, and chasing a passion. I mean, I told him, I said, hey, bud, you get straight A's at school, I'll get straight A's at work, and on the weekends, we'll go hard. And that's what we've been doing pretty much his entire life. So many fun things. The way it started. Motocross is what was real big in my family and still is today. I raced Hangtown 2 weeks ago. Got third in the 50 Pro class. Last year I won it. So I still love motocross. Brendan, talking about Baja, I've ridden with Malcolm down there 5 times. I'm a member of his Sons of Danger. If you know that, you probably know Cam. There's so many paths that cross all around me. It just blows my mind. Tim was up here a minute ago. I raced his double Nichols car down in Irwinville years ago. I watched David help his son. When Todd was very young, he might have been 14, I watched how hard his dad worked for him. Crew chief, you're a good one, bud, and a hell of a race car driver, too. I mean, from the heart. He's a rare bird. A guy that can crew chief like that and drive like that is rare. So, Butch, I don't know Butch, but Grandpa, nice work. The way the stars keep moving, it's like, I lost JD in 2004. What got me, the passion was that STP sticker, right? So it wasn't 2 days after my, accident happened with JD. My phone rings and it's Kyle Petty. I don't know Kyle Petty. To me, that's NASCAR royalty. I'm just a kid from Antioch. So he finds my phone number. He calls me, and I say, hey, what an honor. And he says, no, man, this is just one dad calling another. And hang in there, it'll get better. So, again, the universe, it's the way it's just done so many things. I still love racing. 2 weeks ago, I had a race car on top of me at Irwindale racing, the SRL Southwest Tour. A month before that, I was in Tech with the top 5. I love racing. I'm honored to be here. Don't know if I deserve it, but I tell you what, I sure like it. So I thank you folks very much. And I really do. From the bottom of my heart. I really, really appreciate this. So I'll leave you all with one of my sayings, and I'm full of them. And it's head down, eyes up, drive fast, rock hard. See you at the races. Rock and roll. Thanks a lot. Hi. Let me set this down. Do I do all right? We good? All right. Thank you, dear. What's that? It's great. A goodie? Oh, thank you. One more thing, Ralph. I got to say this. I'm trying to channel some Ralph here. So Ralph doesn't even know this, and I forgot about all my people back here, so shame on me. But the way I started racing was I just got done racing Hangtown. My buddy Gary says, let's go watch Eric at Roseville. Gary was big in Oakley. He was working for Ricky Carmichael. We went to Vegas to watch the Supercross finals. Ralph doesn't even know it, but I bought him a steak that night because Gary was so in the depths of the sport. We all had dinner and I paid. You don't even remember it. Well, maybe you do. Gary Dunn's here tonight. So that's what I'm saying. It's like it just keeps coming. I just can't put a lasso on it, but I'm working on it. Have a good night.
That's a good story right there. Okay, our next presenter is a member of our Hall of Fame and a good buddy. Please welcome to the stage TK, Tommy Kendall.
Wow, this is something else. I was honored to be inducted last year, but to have this here at this track is, I think, a real crowning achievement for Ken and everyone involved in this. It brought back even more memories of coming here. The very first sports car race I ever watched was I flew up with my dad to watch a car he had just bought race in the 1980 Camel GT. 3 years later, I was in the Bonnarant School as a 16-year-old. And 8 years after that, I was leading with 3 to go in the Banquet Foods 300. And if it would have ended there, would-haves and could-haves. That's my biggest would-have and could-have before I got together with Mark Martin. So to have this here, it's really where it should be. Huge honor for me. But last year, when I was at the Hall of Fame, it was a long night because we inducted 2 full years worth of people. It was 20 people. And it was a long night, but every single person that came up, I was just mesmerized by story after story, much like the one you just heard, of people that many of them worked a regular job for 5 or 6 decades so they could race on the weekends. And people that just gave everything because they love the sport so much. And sometimes when I hear one of these big-time racers complain about something, I'm like, do you have any idea what that would be like? And I'm here to induct Phil Hill tonight, and you might think, what does a guy who raced for Enzo Ferrari in the Formula One World Championship have in common? And I would tell you he has more in common with everyone that we've heard from tonight and last year than not. He's a West Coast guy. There's racers and there's West Coast racers. So let's hear it for the West Coast racers. But Phil was going to school. He was born in Florida, but moved to Santa Monica in his teens, was living with his aunt, and he quit going to USC so he could wrench on midgets. And he would, almost every night of the week, he was wrenching on midgets. And from that time, 12 years later, he was the world champion for Ferrari. But in between, a lot of stuff had to happen. If you think about it, there weren't road courses back at that point. He won the first ever Pebble Beach road race where they set up a course on 17 Mile Drive in Pebble Beach. Worked his way up, driving MGs and all the way up. Ended up, forget the Formula One World Championship. 3 Sebring 12-hour wins, 3 Le Mans 24-hour wins. In the 1961 season, he won Sebring, he won Le Mans, and he won the Formula One World Championship for Ferrari in that Sharknose 1961 car. Now, Kurt, a little bit ago, said, you know, it was always important. People wanted to bring the car home in one piece. They tried to bring the car home in one piece for a different reason back then, namely because it was so damn dangerous. And there were people dying all the time. Phil's teammate was killed on the day that he won his world championship at Monza. And so, but he was a big deal. He was like literally like royalty in Modena. But I had a story where I knew of him, but I had never met him. I also lived in Santa Monica. I was driving, I've got this odd car called the Chicken Car. It's a 73 Oldsmobile 98 with a huge fiberglass rooster head and tail on it. Don't ask me why, it's a whole nother story. But I was driving that through the neighborhood, and I see this Duesenberg parked in front of this garage. And I'm looking at it, I look, and I notice the garage goes way in. It's double deep garage. And out walks the 1961 world champion, Phil Hill. Want to know what the hell was going on. He walks up, he says, and I introduced myself, and he says, "You got a wicked exhaust leak." And I said, "You're right about that." And that is how I met Phil Hill. He was in his 70s working on cars in his garage. So he had an unbelievable life. If you meet you're going to hear from his son Derek in a little bit. But if you meet his son Derek or his daughter Vanessa, you know that he was a hell of a father as well. And a man of, I won't say few words, but he didn't like being the center of attention. But I can tell you, he would feel like he was one of you. He would be as honored as everybody else to be inducted into this Hall of Fame. And so it is my great honor to induct Phil Hill. And let's hear a message from his son, Derek.
Hello, everyone. I'm Derek Hill, Phil's son. And when I heard that he was going to be inducted into the West Coast Sports Car Motorsports Hall of Fame, wow, another Hall of Fame. You know, he's been inducted in a few, but this one really means something. The West Coast is where he was from. Grew up in Santa Monica, trained as a mechanic, wrenched on midget cars every night of the week instead of going to college. So, you know, it took him places. Eventually, he got behind the wheel himself. And it was just a world full of such excitement. And eventually he realized it was the one thing he was good at and really enjoyed. And when he was able to start winning races on these air bases and at the likes of the Pebble Beach road races, he started to realize, you know, he could really make a career out of this. Well, that took him long and far to think he went from being a mechanic on a midget team to winning the Formula One World Championship for Ferrari within a span of about 12 years and winning 3 Le Mans is really pretty remarkable. I like to keep this on the shelf, this Bell Shorty, the likes which he wore when he won the Formula One World Championship. Just kind of reminds me of the tremendous risks that he took, how bold and courageous he was, and you know, had a very strong survival instinct to try and get out of it alive, which he did. You know, he started a family. Me and my sister and my mom are still, everyone's still around. Well, we miss my father terribly. He was just a great person, and I know he's smiling wherever he is, knowing that he's being honored still in this way, and again in front of such great company. And congratulations to all the other inductees. I really wish I could have made it, but we had a schedule conflict. Sonoma Raceway is just one of the best in the world, and I look forward to whenever I'll return again. Thank you very much.
I would like to invite Richard Spencer up to accept on behalf of the Hill family. And Richard knew Phil for even longer than I, and so he's going to, if he can find a path to the stage, he's going to come up here and share some stories and accept on behalf of the Hills.
Good evening, everybody. And Tommy, thank you. And certainly on behalf of the Hill family, it's an honor for me to accept this award on behalf of Phil and Phil's family, Alma, son Derek, who he didn't mention this, but he was a very fine driver, and Vanessa. I've got a good story about my mother and Phil. My parents met Phil when we lived in Santa Monica. My dad was driving home one day, and here was a mid-30s Indianapolis car sitting out in front of this beautiful Spanish house on the corner of 16th and Georgina. And we lived on, or 20th and Georgina, we lived on 16th. So my dad stops, rings the doorbell because there was a for sale sign on it. Who comes out but Phil? And this is in the early 50s when Phil was just starting to get going. So my dad, ultimately, he bought the car, and he and Phil remained great friends. And the Indianapolis car turned out, my dad restored it, and it turned out it was a 1937 13th place winner, finisher, driven by Ronnie Householder. So that was a good story. They remained friends for years, and he and my mother were very good friends. And during the 50s and 60s, as Tommy alluded to, was a very dangerous time in motorsports. You know, drivers were getting killed and injured quite often. And my mother would read about an injury or a death, and she'd write a note to Enzo Ferrari and write a note to Phil, and she'd say, Enzo, please build your cars strong for Phil to keep him safe. And she'd write a note to Phil, Phil, you drive safely or carefully. So not before he retired in the late 60s, here is a package in the mail, and a beautifully framed picture of Phil in one of his Grand Prix cars, and an autographed note to my mother. It says, Josie, my mother's name is Josephine, and she'll be 103 in a couple of months. It said, to Josie, I'll drive safely. So whenever I go to see my mother, and I see her probably once a week, and there's 7 of us, and she said, I had 7 kids, so one of you could come and see me every day of the week. So that worked out pretty good. So I go on Mondays. I'm the oldest. So I go the first day of the week. So I walk in 2 weeks ago, and I always say, give her a kiss. And here's Phil's picture on the wall, beautiful picture, and it says, to Josie, I'll drive carefully. So I always point to it. And I say, good picture, Mom. So 2 weeks ago, she goes, you know, I was married to Phil. I said, really, Mom? How'd you work that out? And she said, well, I was only married to him for a week. And I said, a week? I said, why a week? She said, I couldn't stand to have something happen to him, so I told him a week is all I could stand. So, you know, mothers get 103 and they get a little funny. So, Phil was a combination of jitters and high-strung nerves, and a highly intelligent person who could talk about the polar moment. He could talk about a player piano. He could repair it. He was the ultimate mechanic. And if you wanted to talk about anything, politics or whatever, Phil could talk about it. And he was a very unusual guy in many respects. He said he was never injured in all the years he raced, which is hard to believe. He had one big accident, but he said, maybe I wasn't pushing, maybe I wasn't driving hard enough. But he had an uncanny ability to understand the mechanics of a race car, and if the drivetrain was starting to break, or he could feel something going, he would slow down, and he had what the Italian mechanics called simpatico. He was sympathetic to the car's needs, and that's why he won Sebring 3 times, Le Mans 3 times, and he was a very, very well-known endurance driver, and maybe one of the best sports car drivers around. He was on the front page of Sports Illustrated in 1959. When he won the World Driving Championship for Ferrari in 1961, he was on the cover of Newsweek. Not many race drivers have been on those covers. So Phil was, as Derek said, he was an outstanding person, somebody who could come up here and you could ask any question on the world and he would elaborate on it. When he got Parkinson's, he was so inquisitive that he knew as much about Parkinson's as any doctor, and he was that type of person. He would dive into something and make sure he knew every bit about it. So, on behalf of the Hill family, I'm honored to accept the induction into the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame for Phil and certainly for his family. So thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Okay, white flag, one to go. Just before we bring up our final presenter, in years past, we've always allowed the beautiful centerpieces with the flowers to be taken home if somebody would like it. Unfortunately, this year, I have to ask you to please leave them on the table. I think you will all agree. We're going to donate those to a local children's hospital. So I think that's a much better cause, don't you? Thank you. Okay, our final presenter of the night. Again, our big NASCAR weekend here. We certainly couldn't be racing NASCAR here in the wine country at Sonoma Raceway without the help of this man. Please welcome to the stage, President of NASCAR. Come on, Steve.
Well, it's interesting. I know I'm the last person between you and Greg, and drinking elsewhere other than drinking in this beautiful facility. I was struck by something. You heard it again and again from people. It's really this love of racing that everyone in this room shares, and I think it's a very special thing. It struck me as a young boy when I went to my first race at Catamount Speedway at 5 years old, and it stays with me now. I'm significantly older than that. I want to thank or congratulate all the other inductees. Just so well deserved. All that you've done for the West Coast in motorsports. Ken is incredibly proud of each and every one of you. He is the driving force of NASCAR on the West Coast, and we want to thank you, Ken, and thank you to Ralph as well. So it's my honor to say a few words about Greg Biffle. Greg, for as long as I can remember, really you think about fan bases and other drivers who were talking about fan bases. Greg was a staple for fans in the Pacific Northwest, and I think it's fitting that we raced our Xfinity race in Portland last week. Obviously, I know that Greg is from Washington State, not from Oregon, but he represented that Northwest so well while he was racing. His numbers are unbelievable. When he raced in the Pacific Coast Weekly Series, he won 27 of 47 starts. Unbelievable. And then his record at the National Series level is just, it's fantastic. 56 wins, 17 in what is now the Camping World Truck Series, and a championship in 2000. 20 in what is now the Xfinity Series wins, in a championship in 2002, and then ever so close 3 times to winning a Cup Series champion. So the Triple Crown still hasn't been done. Greg was closest with a second in 2005. We are so proud of his accomplishments. Still racing to this day in our Cup Series on and off. We love when he races. A true competitor at heart. He is a racer's racer. And it's my distinct honor and privilege to bring up Greg Biffle to be inducted into the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame.
Well, I was sitting over there just a little bit earlier praying that I didn't follow Jimmy Sills. He has got the best stories, and I don't have good stories, so very entertaining. I started to write a speech as well, and after I got to about page 15, I stopped, threw that away, and said I'm going to make a few bullet points and talk about it. It's amazing that to be up here on stage tonight with all the inductees. I'm very honored. It seems, surreal that I'm here from, growing up in the Northwest, small town, Vancouver, Washington, racing on Friday and Saturday night at Portland Speedway. My parents were instrumental in getting me started in racing. I loved cars. My parents grew up in Southern California, moved to the Northwest, and I got my first car when I was 15, and from there I was just always in trouble. So I think it was my parents' strategy to get me on the racetrack and off the street from getting in trouble and speeding tickets and racing out somewhere on Friday and Saturday night. So my dad and I went to the racetrack at Portland Speedway on a Friday night. And the next day, I went home and bought a car to build a street stock car. I mean, I was hook, line, and sinker once I saw the cars going around at Portland Speedway. And I think, the rest is kind of history from there. But, Mom and Dad were an important part. I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame Ken Clapp and Ralph Sheheen taking over the lead, and Owen Kearns, the entire group. You guys have done a great job. I wouldn't be here, obviously, tonight without a tremendous amount of people as help, getting me here, whether it's friends, sponsors. I wrote down a few of them. But the first job I had at Automotive Machine Shop, AC Nutter, he had oval track cars, and that's how my dad was friends with him. That's how we ended up at Portland Speedway. Archie Summers, those guys built engines for me. John Miller, important guy, owned Iron Tech Welding Industrial Supply. He's the one that basically supported my Portland Speedway campaign and moving on and racing at the Tucson Winter Heat Series. Lauren Wade, when I did get to the Tucson Winter Heat Series, John Baker, good friend of mine, and John Sewell were great friends of mine, helped me in Tucson a tremendous amount, gave me a shop to work in. I didn't have any money, and I'm sleeping on the couch at John's house, Roger and I are, and I was able to win those Tucson Winter Heat races that were televised and meet Benny Parsons, which, the story goes, Benny's the one that really got me my opportunity. I'm glad that Tommy Kendall's here tonight. I do have one story, and I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe Tommy can confirm or deny, but Tommy Kendall's probably the reason why I'm standing up here tonight. The story goes, which sometimes they get blown out of proportion, but supposedly Jack Roush and Benny Parsons met in the garage in Michigan. And in passing, Jack had mentioned to Benny, he said, I wasn't able to hire Tommy Kendall to drive my third truck team, that Jack Roush was starting a third team. Don't ask me why a man wants to have 14 NASCAR teams, but he did over the years, and he was starting a third truck team. And Benny said to him, hey, don't forget about that guy that kid I told you about out in Washington State. He'll do you a good job. He builds his own cars, and he can drive a race car and whatever else. So Jack told the Jeff Smith, which is the president of Roush, to call and hire me. No resume, no test, nothing. That was it. So the next day or whenever that was, I got a phone call and got my opportunity with Roush Fenway. And I spent my whole career basically, for the most part, at Roush Fenway. I did get the opportunity to drive for the King when one of his drivers was hurt. It was I think it was one of my first Cup opportunities. And but for the most part, I spent my entire career at Roush Fenway. one guy that was instrumental, Roger Olchey. So I'm 19 years old, building race cars, building roll cages in my shop, and he would come in and buy parts, and he worked for the Sayers, which had a shop down the street. He was 17 years old, and that was my first employee, and he still works for me today. So we've got a great relationship. He helped me build my race cars, build my business, got me my opportunity. And then he got homesick when I got the chance to go race for Roush Fenway in the truck, so he stayed home for the truck and Xfinity, and then he decided to come cup racing when I got my opportunity, and so he was there, my first win in Daytona. It was pretty exciting. The crew chiefs along the way, Randy Goss, what a great guy. What a story, a background he has, a champion motorcycle, flat track racer. Just would drive you and make me, I hated this, but he'd make me call Mark Martin at every new racetrack we'd go to. He goes, "Did you call Mark yet?" No, I'm going to call him. But anywhere we went, I had been before, he said, "You need to call Mark and talk to Mark." So I'm sure Mark got tired of hearing from me at all the first racetracks we went to. But he was a great crew chief and mentor. Doug Richard, he was at the wheel when we almost won our championship. And all the crew chiefs along the way, and team members, sponsors, just everybody that's helped me get here. I really, really enjoyed my time at NASCAR. I've probably this year, I've been away for 4 or 5 years from being behind the wheel, or 3 years. And this year's been the most enjoyable. I only ran 5 races, but it was so neat to come back to the racetrack and see everybody. It becomes extended family. I heard it all night in this room, the friendships, the relationships that you have. And when I walked back in the garage at the Daytona 500 this year, I was really scared, to tell you the truth, when we had a race car with like 4 guys and we just got it pushed in the trailer the night before. I knew I had my work cut out for me to make the Daytona 500. So we were able to race our way in the 150. But it was nice to come back and see that extended family. I really miss it. Hopefully I might do a few more races. And I think last but not least, my family, my brother, he was an important part, supported me along the way. My kids, Emma and Ryder, and my fiancee, Christina. We're having fun doing all kinds of stuff. I'm doing some off-road racing, which Brandon knows a little bit thing or two about. He's threatened me to come down and do a little bit of racing with him, but we're racing in Utah this tomorrow or Saturday night. And I just can't thank everyone enough for giving me this opportunity. I'm honored to be inducted into the West Coast Stock Car Motorsports Hall of Fame. And it's a night I won't forget. And the day I won't forget when Ken called me with the news that I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it. Just a couple little things of business to wrap up. I want to thank my beautiful daughter, Olivia, and my handsome son, Lucas, for helping out up here again tonight. Thank you. I know it's going to cost me a lot when we get back home. Thank you to my beautiful wife, Kimberly, as well, for helping. On behalf of our board of directors and our chairman, Mr. Ken Clapp, we want to thank all of you for joining us here tonight. Jill Gregory, thank you for letting us be the first inside this incredible facility. We hope we get to be here every year. Steve O'Donnell, Steve Phelps, thank you for joining us here tonight for another fantastic NASCAR weekend here in the wine country. Sure hope everybody enjoys a great racing weekend here. It's been fantastic to come home to the West Coast, Northern California especially, see so many great racing friends. Who would have ever thought we'd put Jimmy Sills, Ron Esau, and Phil Hill into our Hall of Fame all in the same night? What a great way to kick this season off and to do it here at Sonoma. Good night, everybody. Enjoy the weekend.